Welcome to episode 188 of the Microsoft Cloud IT Pro podcast, recorded live on July 23rd, 2020. This is a show about Microsoft 365 and Azure from the perspective of IT pros and end users, where we discuss a topic or recent news and how it relates to you. In this episode, Ben and Scott review some of the news coming out of Microsoft Inspire around Microsoft 365 and Azure, including Blob Storage, Dataflex, and Microsoft Lists. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. Right? You made it to another one. Are you feeling inspired yet?
I am feeling very inspired, not only by Inspire being inspiring or providing inspiration. Is that what Inspire is supposed to do, is provide inspiration? Inspiration?
Yes.
But I had a night. Yes.
In fact, it is. It is supposed to inspire Microsoft's partners to go out and build awesome things.
But I also just had a 5-day, 6-day, something like that vacation up in Michigan on the beach, on the lake, paddleboarding and kayaking. And I barely have any cell phone signal up there. So I frankly just pretty much ignored my phone for 5 days. It was also an inspiring and relaxing experience.
Yeah, that sounds like you're living the dream. You're not missing really much back here, like heat, global pandemics, all the fun things.
Yeah, I frankly have no idea what's going on in Florida right now, and I don't care. I'll figure it out when we get back home.
That's the spirit.
Because now I'm back in Michigan recording on my Bose headset, so if my audio's a little off, I'm hanging out at my parents' for a couple more weeks, have a wedding coming up while we're here and all of that. But people probably do not care so much about my inspiring personal life. They probably care more about the inspiration coming from Inspire this week, which I got back from vacation to a flood of news that I've been trying to catch up on.
Yeah, quite a bit of news. So as Microsoft has been doing for many of their events lately, they've published their book of news. This time it didn't go out as a book, but it's a website. You get the table of contents, go ahead and browse through it. And you can take a look at all of the announcements around things like Azure, Microsoft 365, certainly business applications or biz apps like Dynamics play a large part in the partner ecosystem. So there's kind of a specific section for that, as well as security and compliance. And then it wouldn't be a partner conference without partner enablement. And then a little bit about sustainability initiatives and things like that are coming up or in a process now. But if you're interested in what happened at Inspire and you normally go, I shouldn't be interested in Inspire because that's the partner conference and I'm not a partner, or maybe you work for a partner and the relationship side of Microsoft and its partners isn't, relevant to you day to day. A lot of these announcements aren't about how to sell things in the partner ecosystem. They really are functionality within the platform and to a certain degree, material changes in functionality. So you'll see quite a bit of movement on the Teams and Microsoft 365 side. There was a bunch of Azure announcements from Azure Stack HCI integrations and kind of improving some of the hybrid flows that exist today. Some networking enhancements, a bunch of stuff around disks. There was a little bit around storage, even developer tooling. Got some announcements in there with some announcements from HashiCorp bringing things forward. So I would encourage you, if you deal with Azure, Microsoft 365, to at least read through those sections and see what functionality A is coming, B is available today and has kind of GA'd, or C is both been announced as coming and is available for you to play with in the form of maybe like a public preview.
Yeah, this Inspire was interesting because I'm with you. I feel like at least in previous years, it has been much more partner-focused news. And I felt like this year it was almost like another mini, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say a mini build or a mini Ignite, but there was a lot more just Office 360 or Microsoft 365 Azure news that really applies to everybody that came out this year. I guess more so than I felt like came out previous years around Inspire.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and that certainly feels right. I would have to think that a lot of it has to do with kind of the marketing engine. And if you're spinning up all this marketing for partners, why not use it to market to the broader world as well, especially if you're lighting up features that apply to the broader world. And I think you'll potentially see more of that just during kind of, pandemic times, as they don't have those opportunities to get out and about so much anymore.
Yep. So definitely go check out the Book of News, because there's no way we're going to talk about all of it today in the time we have. But we figured we'd go through and kind of pick out some of our favorites, some of the ones that are maybe most applicable to our audience, or maybe just the ones everybody is talking about after Inspire, like another product rename.
Another product rename.
Do you feel overwhelmed by trying to manage your Office 365 environment? Are you facing unexpected issues that disrupt your company's productivity? Intelligent is here to help. Much like you take your car to the mechanic that has specialized knowledge on how to best keep your car running, Intelligent helps you with your Microsoft Cloud environment because that's their expertise. Intelligent keeps up with the latest updates in the Microsoft Cloud to help keep your business running smoothly and ahead of the curve. Whether you are a small organization with just a few users up to an organization of several thousand employees, they want to partner with you to implement and administer your Microsoft Cloud technology. Visit them at intelligink.com/podcast. That's INTELLIGINK.com/podcast for more information, or to schedule a 30-minute call to get started with them today. Remember, Intelligink focuses on the Microsoft Cloud so you can focus on your business.
I have a feeling that we're going to spend a good amount of time on Microsoft 365 stuff. So why don't we start with a couple of the Azure announcements, because those are kind of quick hits to get through. And then we can dive into all of that product rename that you mentioned.
Perfect. Sounds good. So which Azure one would you like to start with?
So there wasn't a ton of Azure news. Like we said, news comes when news comes. So there's a couple of things that have happened in regard to migration. So specifically tooling like Azure Migrate has been continuing to have new features added to it over time. So, initially Azure Migrate started out and it could assess VMware environments, and it was kind of targeted at those and potentially bringing VMware customers over to Azure. And then they added Hyper-V support over the last couple months, I believe, probably the last 6 months or so. They've done things like added support for importing your own inventories. So if you have a physical inventory and maybe you don't want Azure Migrate tooling to actively assess it, like go out and interrogate, the performance counters on my servers, things like that. You just wanted to give it a CSV file that said, I've got this server with this name. It's got this much CPU, this much RAM. Tell me what the equivalent or right size thing would be in Azure and how much it's going to cost me under my pricing agreement. They've added functionality like that. At Inspire, they announced the ability where they've added another kind of import mechanism. So now you can import and create assessments using uploaded configuration management database data. And they've also included support for those AVS assessments, those Azure VMware Solution assessments. And then they've worked a little bit on the assessment engine itself and kind of some of the recommendation engine, I guess, and some of the pieces that come out of there. So you'll see that it's a little bit more holistic and able to kind of give you a better sense of where you should land on the other side. And over time, I think you'll, continue to see improvements in there. Another thing that was announced very recently, I believe this one was pre-Inspire, but they did mention it at Inspire again, is Microsoft has support for shared disks with virtual machines now. So you can do things like spin up a disk in Azure that now you can attach to mount to multiple virtual machines at the same time, which enables you to do things that you haven't been able to do in the past, like maybe a traditional failover cluster, because it required that cluster shared volume. Some of those workloads are now ready to go, and they would have support natively in the operating system, and you're not doing any weird workarounds on the back end to kind of fake having a shared disk. It's just a native capability and ready to go.
Interesting. So I missed this one. This one is not then spinning up like an Azure file share or creating a disk and doing a traditional SMB share of it, but it's having I would say a physical virtual disk. You essentially have that virtual disk file, and you can attach that virtual disk straight to two different VMs in Azure.
Correct. Yeah. So this was originally talked about like in the way back when. It went into preview like early in 2020, but I don't know that, like you said in your case, that a lot of folks have heard about it or necessarily noted it's there. But it very recently GA'd. So it GA'd on July 17th.
Okay.
That's kind of a cool thing, because if you talk about it potentially in the context of Expire, like, hey, we have this exciting new enhancement. Well, it's actually been out for a long time, but now not only is it out, it's also out of preview. So, GA carries all those benefits of supportability and, potentially SLAs and all the other things that come with it.
Right. Which you really want if you're using something like this for a SQL cluster that has failover. You really probably want to be on a supported feature, supported functionality.
Yep.
If something would go wrong with that SQL cluster.
Yeah. So shared disks, you mentioned like SMB shares and files. So if you think about shared disks versus files, shared disks is giving you that direct access to block storage, and it's specifically for being leveraged by multiple, virtual machines. Really, if you think about it, like in the context of Azure, it is for those kind of clustered volumes that you potentially want to spin up there. So that lets you do things like it's presented like any other shared volume. You can use Windows Server Failover Cluster Manager. You got Pacemaker, CoroSync, whatever you need in there. If you're looking for that fully managed files experience and you are looking for SMB or NFS, then you would go to Azure Files, which is, again, part of the storage service, or potentially Azure NetApp Files. But there was a little announcement there as well around the data plane, which could potentially make things a little bit easier for customers as well. And that's in the area of NFS. So Azure Blob Storage will have support for NFS 3.0, which will be a good enabler for specifically, like Microsoft calls it out in the announcement, specifically for read-heavy workloads, across kind of a number of use cases, potentially targeting a number of verticals. So as support for NFS 3.0 is going to be coming out in preview. So now you'll have this. Azure Storage is getting pretty interesting because it's the data storage plane, like block level storage for disks. It is also blobs, it's files, tables, queues, all those kinds of things. But it's also becoming more and more consolidated place for kind of multi-protocol access for access to your data. So if I want to talk to blobs, that's my storage account. If I want to spin up NFS in my storage account and have support for NFS 3.0, because I've got that workload that wants to target it, that's the same storage account. It's just a different endpoint that I hit or another protocol that storage supports. Data Lake falls into that same thing as well. If you need hierarchical namespace support, that is still fundamentally built on top of blobs and delivered on top of that same Azure Storage service. You just connect to a different endpoint on it. I think the NFS one's pretty exciting because now you have more options where, maybe you looked at Azure NetApp Files and that wasn't the product for you. Maybe it was a pricing thing, maybe it was a performance thing, whatever it happened to be. Now you've got a little bit more flexibility within the service there. So you'll have this kind of tier of services for NFS, depending on the protocol that you require, the version of the protocol you require. Do I require NFS 3.0, 4.1? What's that look like for me? And what are the performance characteristics that I'm looking for out of my data set? Is it read heavy? Is it read write kind of equal? Is it write heavy? And then be able to target into specific services from there.
Got it. Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've been spending a lot of time in Azure Storage lately.
Not me.
Not you? Oh, okay. Not at all.
That's like most of the Azure stuff that caught my eye. If you do Azure Stack, there was some HCI stuff. There was a little bit about ADF and improving the integration runtime, specifically bringing support for managed VNets. But again, I think that one was announced slightly before Inspire, so folks might have seen that one already.
Yeah, it looks like I see some Apache Hadoop stuff getting GA'd in this month, July 2020, and some other stuff, but that sums up the Azure stuff pretty well.
Yeah.
Outlook add-ins are a great way to improve productivity and save time in the workplace, and Sperry Software has all the add-ins you'll ever need. The Save as PDF add-in is a bestseller and is great for project backups, legal discovery, and more. This add-in saves the email and attachments as PDF files. It's easy to download, easy to install, and Sperry Software's unparalleled customer service is always ready to help. Download a free trial at sperrysoftware.com, SPERRYSOFTWARE.com, and see for yourself how great Save as PDF is. Listeners can get 20% off their order today by entering the code CLOUDIT. That's CLOUDIT, CLOUDIT, all one word at checkout. Sperry Software, work in email, not on email.
So now, onto your fun stuff.
Onto my fun stuff. Well, I'm going to start with a smaller one. We're just going to keep stringing people along and see how long they listen before we get to the rename. Dude, now I lost it. Microsoft Lists are GA'd, Scott. Those went really quick through the preview to GA, which I don't know that I've still seen anywhere officially that these are just SharePoint lists, but with how quick they went from announcement to preview to GA, and everything we've seen, it kind of appears that it's just a new front end for SharePoint lists, but they are GA'd now. They have begun rolling out. And it's interesting with the Microsoft list, they're rolling out to Microsoft 365 in July and available in Teams in mid-August. So they're kind of staging out the whole rollout and where you're going to have this Microsoft Lists app to be able to go in and interact with the list. So currently, I think it is just Microsoft 365, and it's going to be the web version. So portal.office.com, go to your apps. You should see a list there as it starts to roll out to GA. Ironically, I have all of the preview stuff turned on in my tenant, and I still don't have lists in my tenant. So I don't know what happened there, but they're rolling out to Microsoft 365 this month, and then you'll start having like the Teams app available in Teams to work with these lists sometime in August.
Yep, which I think follows that general flow that you've kind of seen with some of those releases lately, where maybe like the native UI comes out on the SharePoint side, and then a slightly tweaked version of that, or a version that just fits better in Teams, as kind of a consumer of a SharePoint service, picks that up just a little bit later.
Yeah, so because it's not available in any of my tenants yet, I haven't actually had a chance to play with it myself. So I can't talk to my experience. We'll have to do another episode when I can actually play with it and get some experience with it. And another one that it's been out there for a little while. I've seen stuff about it. They snuck it into Inspire as well. That's now available in public preview, is the Universal Print Solution, which is a Microsoft 365 Cloud Print Solution, essentially enabling you to take your printers in your office buildings and schools, wherever your corporate printers are, integrate those into your Microsoft 365 Azure AD, so that now your Microsoft 365 users can print to those corporate printers securely over the internet from wherever they may happen to be. With everybody working from home, it's kind of cool. Unfortunately, hopefully you don't actually need the printouts, because You can print them from anywhere, but obviously the printer is now going to be sitting in your office building or your school or wherever you are, and you're going to still have to go get those pieces of paper off the printer.
That is the rub, right? Trying to find out where the printer is and what that looks like.
So, and I've seen like different printer manufacturers, and I think Google has something similar to this where you can go connect over the internet to print. Now you can bundle it all right in with Microsoft 365. So again, just in this, it could even come in handy too if you have multiple buildings, I guess, and your buildings aren't all wired together, or you have a bigger campus and for some reason you don't have a local LAN connection to all these printers. It doesn't just have to mean you're printing from home to your corporate office, but printing to different locations, or if you have different offices in different states and you need to print something out for somebody in a different state. I mean, I can see some use cases here and there for that as well.
Oh, yeah.
But it's available in public preview. You can go check it out, see if you want to get it set up. And then we have the product rename. We'll talk about this one now.
Are you ready? Have you prepared yourself? You feel like you're ready to go?
I've wrapped my head around this. Common Data Service. Well, so there's kind of two announcements wrapped in one. One is a new product, one is a rename of the Common Data Service. So now there is a new product out there called Dataflex, and the Common Data Service is now Dataflex Pro.
Microsoft Dataflex Pro.
Microsoft Dataflex Pro.
You got to watch out for those names.
So, and this is part of the Power Platform, kind of, because it's kind of that underlying data store. I kind of wish it would have been PowerFlex. Doesn't that sound like kind of a cool name?
Product naming is a hard thing. We'll leave it at that.
Yes. But this one is interesting. I don't even know where to start. Where should I start with this one? Dataflex. Let's just start with Dataflex. So this is now going to be included with, it sounds like select Microsoft 365 plans. I don't believe this is actually going to be available with all of them. And did they announce which? Is it all of them, or did they announce which ones it would be a part of? That was one thing I did not.
I believe they did announce which ones they will be a part of. It was... So they have a whole landing page on Power Apps for it, so you can kind of understand Dataflex Pro.
Which?
And
Dataflex.
They also had an announcement.
Yeah. Unless you want to keep talking.
No,
Okay, you look for it. So the Dataflex landing pages, if you look at the URL, it's actually the Common Data Service. But what Dataflex does is it kind of brings that Common Data Service into Microsoft 365 at a lower licensing tier. And you're not going to get all of the CDS functionality because that's going to be that additional Dataflex Pro license. But what this included version of Dataflex does is it brings the chatbot functionality into Teams, and it allows you to use Dataflex, which is a common data service, relational database type data structure, to be used for your Power Apps, but only Power Apps built in Microsoft Teams. So at this point in time, Dataflex really is a Teams-based relational database, CDS, data storage for everything in Teams. And
it is fairly siloed. I mean, it is siloed, right? Not fairly siloed.
It's siloed into Teams.
It is siloed into Teams. So effectively what they're saying is, and what you're saying is, if I spin up a set of tabular data inside of Dataflex and I expose that data through Teams, and I also want to maybe expose it through like a little wizard inside of Power Apps, that Power App has to run and render through Teams as well.
Right. It's not going to work like if you've done SharePoint embedded Power Apps, or if you are just accessing Power Apps on your mobile device or via the web, it's just not going to work there. Part of this I like is the fact that it enables chatbots to now, I feel like it lowers the barrier of entry to chatbots a little bit, and that might be part of what Microsoft was going for with this announcement, because when you look at the Power Platform, You have Power Apps, you have Power Automate, you have Power BI, and then you have Power Virtual Agent, which is that chatbot functionality. Power Virtual Agent was the only one of those four that actually required CDS to get any functionality. So unless you were paying for a plan in your environment that included CDS, you kind of were eliminated from using Power Virtual Agent. Even internally in teams developing those chatbots, by changing kind of this licensing and introducing this additional Dataflex SKU, it really lowers that barrier of entry for your chatbots. For a lot of people that are using Teams that maybe want to implement a chatbot for something like a help desk within Teams, or for people just looking up generic HR information, paid holidays, vacation time, because that's what everybody always cares about. Having this lower barrier of entry to that really helps with the chatbot and maybe helps gain some adoption there and lets people really see what they can do with chatbots, especially if they're in that Microsoft 365 ecosystem and maybe haven't ventured into those more advanced plans to get CDS. It also gives you that additional data storage if you do want to do those Teams-based Power Apps. And I haven't found in here, is this just if you build an app for Teams? Because there's a couple different ways to do Power Apps in Teams. One, you can build a Power App and actually surface it down the left side as a pinnable app, kind of down that left-hand side navigation. Or you can put Power App tabs in a team so that it's one of those tabs across the top as a Power App. I don't know if it's going to work both places or if it's only going to be like that, I'll call it a pinnable app on the left side of your Teams client. I'm not sure which one it is.
Based on some of the just animations and things they put around out about it, some of the storyboards and all that, they do look like they'll be pinnable Power Apps. So your stuff that shows up in the left, or where you have like Power Apps as the kind of high level icon on the left-hand side of the Teams client, click on Power Apps, and then they'd be available in there.
You can go, and yeah, that's about all we have to go on because these are going to be available. So the new Power Apps features will be available in August in public preview, and the Power Virtual Agents features will also be available in August in public preview. So starting about a month, well, no, not even a month. By the time you hear this, it's going to be August. This is going to come out right around the beginning of August. You should be seeing this start to roll out to tenants in public preview about the time this podcast comes out. Did you find which plans are going to include it, or if it's going to be all of them?
So as far as I know, they didn't exactly announce it. So there's an initial statement in all the blogs that reads, the new Dataflex, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents functionalities in Teams are coming soon to select Microsoft 365 and Office 365 users for no additional cost. So that's certainly kind of like a little not telling you much, because what is a select plan and what does that look like? They did give some additional statements to some additional news organizations. Here's a little bit more expansion there. So the new features, or these new features related to Power Apps development and Power Virtual Agents chatbot creation are powered by Microsoft Dataflex in Teams and provide enterprise relational data stores with rich data types to Microsoft 365 users. They are now included for free with select Microsoft 365 and Office 365 licenses. And we already heard that part, but that include Power Apps and Power Automate. So what that sounds like is if you have a license that already had Power Apps and Power Automate inside of it in some way, shape, or form, you'll potentially have access to Dataflex and some of these things. Maybe, kind of, sort of.
And that's almost all of them, because I think all the
that
E1,
would be quite a
E3,
few.
E5, I think about the only ones that don't have it are the ones that are essentially like the Enterprise Business Apps Pro. I can't remember what they renamed Enterprise Business Apps, where you're essentially licensing just Word, Excel, all of that for the desktop. I don't think those include any of the Flow and Power Automate stuff. And maybe like the frontline worker plans don't include those. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it does sound like, based on that they will come to quite a few of them.
Yes. I think you'll see it seated in a lot of the plans.
Yeah, and if you're a Dynamics person, it does, because CDS was named to Microsoft Dataflex Pro, like they do have some of those in here where it says the Common Data Service has added over 1,000 features and introduced support for Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Apps. We are pleased to announce that the Common Data Service has now been renamed to Microsoft Dataflex Pro. So if you're used to hearing CDS with all of this stuff, and all of a sudden you stop hearing CDS and start hearing Microsoft Dataflex Pro, on the Dynamics side of it, it is because it appears that CDS in name will just completely go away. And you'll just have Microsoft Dataflex on that team side, or Microsoft Dataflex Pro for CDS, Dynamics 365, and all the things where CDS was before. So that'll be interesting. I'm interested to kind of get my hands on it and see what I can do. I do have a couple of clients where I've done some Power App stuff, and I'm like, this could be kind of nice, because there are times, and people can criticize me for doing this, where I have treated SharePoint lists like a database in SharePoint for my Power Apps.
The horror. What have you done?
The horror. I just admitted to doing that. Because frankly, they had Power Apps, and they're actually using these Power Apps now in Teams, but they didn't want to do premium connectors and do Azure SQL and do all of that to really have a database. And SharePoint lists, frankly, were easy to do it with, where it might make sense to start taking some of those apps that are using SharePoint lists currently, that they're using in Teams, and migrate them over to using Dataflex on the back end.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
It is. We will have to see once it comes out, once we get our hands on the public preview, and then we'll find out when it GAs. Again, I'm going to guess this would move through the preview and GA stage pretty quickly, since it's just kind of a little bit of a rebrand of CDS. We'll find out. What else was there? Anything else in the book of news? I'm flipping through my book of news. There was some stuff about...
There was some security and compliance things that are coming out and kind of ready to go. I believe there's also been some announcements around kind of additional functionality in the identity space that can help partners. So if you think about things like Azure Lighthouse and kind of the ability to do cross-tenant management, or true like multi-tenancy across Azure Active Directory tenancies, and then, all the subscriptions that are underneath them. Like they announced that Azure Identity Protection is going to be available for Lighthouse accounts as well. So you'll start to see like APIM and some other things light up in there. But yeah, all sorts of fun stuff. I would actually recommend that you go through the book of news and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. And really at that point, because a lot of the links in the book of news, for whatever reason, they're pointing to like dead aka.ms links right now. So that's okay. Don't get too frustrated. Just like go Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, whatever your thing is, to go and find out more about it. Because the documentation right now, for better or worse, is spread all over the place. If you're interested in Microsoft 365, I would say probably head over to the tech community and kind of go through the M365 blogs. If Azure's your thing, go to the Azure public blog. Or go look at the new updates to things like Azure documentation, like that NFS thing that I talked about for blobs. That's not on the Azure blog. The link in the book of news to it is dead, but all the documentation is live on docs.microsoft.com. So you kind of have to know to a certain degree the feature you're looking for and kind of where to go look for the information about it.
Got it. There was one Teams feature I saw that I wanted to mention briefly that I don't see in the book of news, and that was Teams calling in meetings. You now have the ability on the desktop app on Mac and PC to go turn on the new Teams or the new calling and meeting experience, which when you start a meeting or a call, automatically pops it out into its own window in Teams. so that you can browse around to other aspects of Teams, other Teams chats, what have you, and keep your meeting or your call in its own window so it doesn't do like the whole minimize it to a teeny tiny picture-in-picture type window, making it easier to multitask like none of us should actually be doing during our meeting and browsing around in Teams while you're on a meeting or a phone call.
Yeah, good call. I will put a link to that announcement as well in the show notes.
Yes, I turned it on this morning in mine. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but that was a nice feature that I saw announced in the last day or two as well. So I think that about wraps it up. Go look at the book of news. Let us know if there's anything else you want us to cover. And with that, Scott, I will let you get to your day, and I'm going to resume working on my vacation.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Ben.
All right. Thanks, Scott. We'll talk to you later.
If you enjoyed the podcast, go leave us a 5-star rating in iTunes. It helps to get the word out so more IT pros can learn about Office 365 and Azure. If you have any questions you want us to address on the show or feedback about the show, feel free to reach out via our website, Twitter, or Facebook. Thanks again for listening and have a great day.